All right, welcome to our Saturday Roundtable, where we talk about our project and then talk about how we create game B, because none of us need help. So who would like to start for this week? I can start if no one else wants to. Go ahead, Bentley.
I've been working on Reason Score, it's a project to build mass agreement. I talked to some video debaters. They used to debate on an app called Callout, where you'd be able to do a video debate, and just said, hey, I'm doing something that's not video debating, but it's kind of similar. And I'm willing to have prizes, do a little debate competition. I think everyone skipped over the fact that it wasn't video debate because there's 3 people interested, but so it might be a rude awakening. But I scheduled a meeting for next week and we'll see how it goes. So that'll be interesting to get some feedback. And then I'm working on a portfolio site for myself because I'm going to need to start earning some of that Game A money. And actually have someone contacted me about a job. It's pretty boring work, but pays the bills. And yeah, that's mostly what I've been working on. And then for another project that I've been working on for a startup, I talked to them about equity and some sort of ramen noodle pay to survive. Yeah, those are the things I've been working on. I'm really looking forward to seeing more of what's happening in WikiElection and stuff. So
I guess I'll go then. So WikiElection has been going well. I stayed after the meeting yesterday with Bentley and Radek, and we saw the newer version of the prototype. The new, I don't know what to call it, thing scoring, the scoring matching, the
rating system, maybe.
The rating system, yeah, there you go. That works. It's coming along nicely. I think at some point we're going to have a meeting to go over the more complex part of it, because we just saw like the front end, how it looks when it's being used. But that was cool. Hopefully we'll see that live on the actual live version of the WikiElection prototype soon. And then after that, we'll be doing a pivot to Conferati, where the end goal is still to have WikiElection, but Conferati is sort of the name behind the overall tech to like review evidence and summarize it and that whole thing. So that has to get proven out before WikiElection is any use. So WikiElection is definitely still a thing and is probably one of the main reasons to do Conferati, but there's that reason for the pivot, and the Conferati is also the one where people will be reviewing organizations instead of just people, which also seems very timely. So I've been working on that, and the design is sort of how that's slightly different, and the next steps for when Radek has pushed this newest version of WikiElection, and we can start on Conferati. So that's where I'm at.
All right, I guess that leaves me as the next person, the last one. I have solution raising as well as this new MLM idea that I'm working on. Solution raising, the week before last, we canceled the relationship one because I wasn't really in the mood. No one showed up, so I quit before anyone else came. And so we held it this week, and it was actually a really good solution raising, coming up with some powerful ideas on how we could help people with dating. And this next week, we're going to be doing a solution raising on solution raising itself, which I've been meaning to do for a while. And so people who have been to at least one solution raising coming and saying, of course, what it's like, what they would love it to be like, and then what we could do to get to 10,000 people, $100,000, or I don't know how I'm exactly gonna word it, but to do that. And the MLM is partly to get to the 10,000 people and $100,000. With the MLM idea, with all of my ideas, I feel like they're powerful and big, and yet I'm never able to do it by myself. I'm never able, even like the MLM, I'm like, I can't really make even like a landing page, or even like, I don't even know what steps to go through to do that. Like, I don't know, there's a, either like ripping a page in half, and then how many times do you rip it in half till there's nothing? You can't, right? It's infinite. Or folding it in half, and then how long does it take to reach to the moon? That's what I feel like Like, it's like my brain keeps filling in the gaps, being like, ooh, could you handle this? Ooh, could you handle this? But it's like, it's never quite, and it's not supposed to be. Like, it's not supposed to be that I can do it by myself. It's supposed to be almost from day one that I have other people doing it with me. But I don't know how to get those people. And so I'm just kind of sitting with that currently. Springs into existence. So that is where I currently am.
Yeah, I certainly know that feeling. Although what's interesting though is I think you kind of started all this with the Together Tech idea, and now we're building it, even though you've kind of moved on as your main focus. So maybe it's just a matter of time. But
yeah. No, and I honor that as well. Like, part of it's just the feeling that it's constantly, I'll be like, I'm in this alone. I'm like, I have to save it all by myself. I'm like, you could have said that a year and a bit ago. You can't say that anymore. Like, there are so many people, but there's still that, like, how does, even if somebody wanted to come support me, I don't even know how, right? Like, it's, and I feel like most of the world has an understand, like, they know what they need or are able to do it themselves, and they need to outsource it because they don't have enough time in the day, but they could still do the thing, right? They could write the email, they just choose not to and choose to outsource. Because I can't even really explain it to the other person of, like, why I can't, right? Be like this, because it's like, well, if you can save the entire world with a global cooperative or whatever it is we're doing, why can't you do this thing? And it's hard to be like, because I can't. This is what I can do. I can show up and have a conversation on video. So I need other people to show up and have the conversation on video and then do the other stuff around it that needs to get done, right? Both the tasks and then actually doing the tasks. And I'm willing to take on anything I can, but just that. It feels like the universe just keeps ripping my paper in half. It's like, okay, you're closer. You're so close. You're so close. Because there is something very powerful in this MLM idea where it does handle recruitment. It handles a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about for the last year, that all of our projects need, right? The people, the resources. It's just how to get it together and out into the world so that we can find the first 10 people, and that who can then recruit the 100 and recruit the 1,000, and putting that together in a way that it makes sense to people, as opposed to my brain, who likes the math. And I like the pyramid math. I don't like it happening in the world and all its horrificness, but it's like how we use the worst business practice to be the best. But that was definitely my check-in. We can continue on with what we're going to end up chatting about. I do feel like I wanted to mention that Wikilection feels a little more important now, that that it wasn't always, but now that Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, there's something about, like, we need to stop leaving it up to our government officials to solve shit, because they're not going to. And, like, the idea that, yeah, there's 5 people on the Supreme Court and they're going to have a big impact, not just on the United States, but the whole world. But can that be what we deal with, right? Like, why, if we had the full picture, if we had Wikilection 5 years ago, I don't know if we'd ever have Kavanaugh. I don't know if we'd have Trump elected. I don't know. I don't know whether Trump and Hillary would have been the ones from that long ago, but yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, the end goal for me is still Wikilection. Conferati is sort of a step to there, but in sort of in walking through it, like, I don't think Wikilection is trustworthy until Conferati is done, because until then, people are like, so why do I trust you versus all the other sources? Like, how is this actually different? And it makes the evidence a little bit more transparent, hopefully, but without actually summarizing it and going through the evidence and showing that, I think that's the important step. And we'll actually still be working on Wikilection at the same time. Rudek actually mentioned some people in Poland that were unhappy with a certain, I think, political group and some people. So he was going to possibly approach them to see if they wanted to use Wikilection to sort of, I guess, help paint that picture. So we might be looking at doing that once the prototype is up and online and ready to actually, I guess, sort of start to summarize politicians.
Yeah, I don't know if any of us have a hot seat topic or need.
Not me.
I guess we don't have Radix, and it would be confusing if we worked on the values. Yeah, I guess we're all kind of building our projects. I don't know. Maybe this is a time also to see if anyone needs any other assistance on anything. I was thinking, I could use people that are willing to debate a topic using a tool rather than just verbally or written in a Facebook post or Twitter. But it would take some time. But it'd be stretched out over weeks. It'd be like, an hour every couple days or something, or an hour a week. So it would be a lot of work. And it'd be helpful if it's a topic that they were actually passionate about and believed in. And we could find someone on the other side that they believed in as well. It's, you can debate something you don't believe, but I think you end up going down rabbit holes that and kind of misrepresenting the other side because you're not living with it in your mind. So that's kind of less valuable than a true believer. I've also thought about, I'm back on maybe doing some prototypes for my portfolio site. And one of them is the ideological Turing test. And I haven't figured out a name for it. Not that I necessarily need a name. And that's a name, but it doesn't mean much to people when you say it. But the concept is that you go to this site and there's kind of two actions you can take. One is it'll show up two articles, short form articles about a topic. And then you try and decide which person has wrote that article that doesn't believe in what they're saying. So they believe the opposite. And one of those two articles, one is written by a true believer and one is written by the opposite. And you're trying to pick out which two. And so the goal of the other side is that you're trying to write, you take a topic, you write two articles, one for the side you believe in, one side you don't. And your goal is to have it to where the other side can't tell that you don't believe in what you're saying. So you're able to accurately represent their side. And that's called the ideological Turing test.
I like that a lot. That sounds interesting.
Yeah. So that wouldn't be too big of a project, I think. So it'd be like a little portfolio site that also kind of help diffuse and have us kind of work together. Because if you can really phrase the other side really well, then that kind of discourages or encourages, really thinking through what's going on. So it'd be a fun little side project.
If I was in any way capable of writing, I'd be down for it. I'm gonna ramble on for 5 minutes on the other side. I can do mask, no mask. I can usually play devil's advocate for the other side. There's very few things I can't, but in a real way, like I can see it from their side and be like, this is what this is and this is what this is, but I'm not writing it out.
Come to think of it, there's no reason why. I mean, the concept works regardless of the medium. So maybe allowing video would be a way to make it even more interesting. I'm not going to host video on my site, so they'd have to record a YouTube video and then post it to the site, or 2 YouTube videos. But
it'd be really confusing to my audience, Bentley. It'd be like, anti-Black Lives Matter, anti-mask, yeah, let's figure this out. But you can do unlisted.
That could end up being pretty hilarious if a challenge like that actually blew up. You're like a bunch of people like, wait, they're saying what now? No, it's for this challenge. You don't understand.
Yeah, that'd be interesting for sure. Like the wrong one. But it's also because you're even something like anti-Black Lives Matter or the pro-Trump. I don't know if I would be able to do pro-Trump in a believable way, except written maybe, even though I can't write it. But like once I start smirking, maybe I'm not so much of a Trump supporter. But I don't remember what point of that was, except that it becomes obvious, especially on video. It's like it's hard to keep a straight face, and it's hard to it's. I think it would be easier to write it out and have people convinced that you're on that side. There's other ones though that I could do more convincingly, like mask, no mask. I get it
Yeah.
from the other side,
I
but
think any time where you're not just like putting your idea out there and having to actually perform it, I mean, that's an extra talent then, because you have to not only create the words to say, but then perform it in a believable way versus, as you said, something you don't believe. So I think that would be more interesting to watch personally, but it would also be way harder.
Yeah, yeah. It might be something I could add later. Text is pretty easy.
Yeah.
also like
yeah.
having random strangers watch it, right? Because I mean, if people know me, they're gonna know they're gonna know I'm left. They're gonna know I'm anti-capitalist. They're gonna
right.
know all these things. Whereas, like I can argue capitalism. I could do that, and not. But like nobody who knows me would believe it. But they don't know me, right? They're just watching. Like yes, this side and this side.
Yeah, getting a poll of semi-random people would be an important part of it. But that project's been done several times. Several teachers and colleges have assigned that to their students and had another class or another group of people read them, not knowing which side they were on and trying to find it. So I thought it'd be an interesting thing to make a site.
You get side by side or whatever, right?
Mhm.
You're not trying to pick all of it.
Yeah, just between two. And one's real, one's fake. I was thinking of calling it Find the Fake from the perspective of the people that are coming in. I don't know if that domain's available. Probably just do it on my domain first, see if it works.
Interesting, because I was also thinking of a few different like sort of fake, like intentionally fake news type tools, where like you would go and take a current news story and like have people sort of highlight things that could be swapped out or ad-libbed, and then sort of create like a news ad-libs, and then be like, hey, which one of these articles is true, right? And take something like about Donald Trump, but then slightly tweak it so instead it's about Obama, and then see like, so is this true? And what do you think about it? Oh, you think it's good Obama did that? Okay, it was actually Trump. Do you still think it's good? And to sort of have that test. So like have different tools to sort of test that. I think that might be an interesting thing that sort of still fits in the same vein in my mind. Where yours is a lot more, I think, like actually sort of testing the creation of content if you believe it. Like I think that's one of the more interesting parts, but also requires more work because it's more like actually the writing of 2 essays. I think
it's
it would
interesting.
be cool to have that be like the best part, and then have other small bits and pieces.
Yeah, I think there's a couple sites where they kind of put you through a little news quiz like that, but it would be interesting to have it to where people write it or an ad libs thing and have more content and make it more of that would be very interesting. And I could use the same basic tech in theory.
Yeah, I mean, this did definitely warrant having its own thing, but it also seems like something that you could end up. I'm not sure that this would kill the purpose or not. I think it would still be useful to have something like Conferati review how accurate each article is, right? Because like if you're just going through and taking your talking news points, like, or taking your, if you like MSNBC and so you write the piece you agree with just full of MSNBC talking points, and then the thing against it you just fill with Fox News talking points. Well, they're both probably BS then.
Yeah.
So, have it be, which one do you believe? Okay, now here's how true each one is.
Yeah.
And then it would be cool if it could actually tell you that as you're writing it. So it's like, hey, cool thing. 90% of this is wrong. Try again. Oh, this is the one I believe. Uh-oh.
Yeah, another interesting thing about the site is you could also get a public rating. So you would have a domain where you go to and they could say, okay, here's someone.
Don't believe anything this person says. They're really good at lying.
Right. That's a good point.
Here's a page on Wiki Election because they're also a politician.
Yeah. But yeah, being able to pass the test and kind of show it. But what would be interesting is I don't think you could ever for it to work, people couldn't ever like have that article. There'd be no way to link to what you wrote, maybe. So no one could ever kind of see what you wrote intentionally, because they would go to the site and it would just pop up two pieces of text. Now that's interesting. The text would be more anonymous than video. Video would not. So maybe video wouldn't work, kind of in the short term at least.
I think video could still end up working as long as, like, I think to your point, it wouldn't be a video that you could just go and pull up. It would need to be like, okay, now the context of this video is one of these is fake. And it would sort of be like, you would need to be on the back end. And one of the things that I'll end up needing is people who actually are good at creating that kind of fake content. Because that is kind of an important part of Converati, is that test, is like the having intentionally fake content that skews one way or the other, and see if you spot that it's fake, and see if you spot that it's skewed, or see if you skew it in one way over the other, like with the Trump Obama example. Well, if it's wrong, then it's still wrong if the other person did it. If it's right, then it's still right if the other person did it. So why is your opinion changing? Yeah,
it'd be interesting to have that test.
I have a question about which I don't know how to even ask it. So, like Trump, there's those the new recording of him coming out from right before COVID, where he's finding out about it, and that he is giving it more of, it's like, this is a big deal. But then, of course, all of his talk in the public about that stuff was like, whatever, it's going to go away. It's going to randomly go away. And I don't think he's that eloquent of a speaker, but the world seems to think he's an eloquent speaker. And so there's I'm the opposite of that, partly because I can see both sides, right? And so they're both actually trying to get out at the same time, that there is the ability to speak, but there's also like, are you actually consistent in, because I don't have a problem if he went from, no, it's not a big deal, to it's a big deal, to not a big deal. It's that when he was saying it wasn't a big deal, he knew it was a big deal, and he's lying, right? He doesn't actually, like, he's not necessarily going back and forth. Just his talking points are going back and forth, versus somebody who can see more of a big picture and like they're more wishy-washy and flippy-floppy when they're not. They can just see the full big picture, right? I'm not going from like, this pandemic's huge and the government should lock us all down and back and forth. It's like, no, I can see how our governments are going to overstretch, and I know science, so I know that a virus is going to act in the way it acts, and we don't have a say in it, right? That's a very different standpoint than fear-mongering anyway, I don't even know what I'm asking you to measure, but measure that.
Well, I think if you talk about the actual politicians, I think there was something in WikiLection, that Idro, you were gonna kind of measure people. Flip-flopping is a bad term, because we want people to be able to change their minds, but consistent flip-flopping back and forth would be bad.
I think step one is
like Hillary does that, right?
Yeah. I think our first step is just having a timeline.
Who just talking to.
So that you can see exactly what happened when. Okay, here's a news conference of Trump saying this. Here's when the recording happened. Here's the next news conference. Does something make sense there? We're like, okay, he said this, and then there is some consistency there, or is it a complete two-sided, like in the public he did this, in the private he did this, oh, and here's two more private conversations, and then here, like, to start to be able to spot that trend, and then also to be able to fact check and say, like, oh, okay, this is actually what we knew at that time. How does that fit in? Because a big part of it is we're always seeing slices, and it's kind of up to each person to figure out, like, okay, Bentley, here's some news. Go and figure out how that fits into everything else you know about all the people involved. You have to have the beautiful mind, strings on the wall, be able to follow every news story, and people just don't pay that much attention.
Yeah. And with Trump, it's an interesting thing, because a lot of his supporters don't expect him to be, I can't remember the term. There was someone who was saying he's honest but not accurate. Like, he says what he feels, and that's what people would like to see. They want to see passion. They want to see that kind of thing. Although
I think he also pisses off the people that they want to piss off.
Right. Yeah. Right. So those statements are having the intended effect.
Right.
Right. And then some people that support them just really like anarchism. So, throwing a monkey wrench in the works is entertaining.
Yeah.
And then I have some good friends that really like the policies that he ends up passing. So they don't really care about what he says.
Yeah. I mean, I fully understand why people could still support him, because it's been like, you ever been in a room where an alarm is going off and you have to stay in there, and after like 10 minutes you stop hearing the alarm? I think that's where the world is at with Donald Trump. Yeah, I mean, Jubilee, no, because of your whole half-deaf thing. But like, I think with a lot of it, there hasn't been a single day in the last 4 years where we haven't all heard the name Donald Trump, and hasn't been like, hair on fire, the world is ending. And it's like, guys, just pick 1 in 10 stories to freak out about. It is not everything. I remember like 2 months in, there was some huge story about like Melania's dress color or something. I'm like, wow, we're here already, huh? Like, this is important news.
Yeah. Yeah. Obama had that
Switch the
huge.
topic.
Go ahead. Sure.
But has anyone heard of Topia? Topia. It's in beta at the moment.
Mm-mm.
Raymond sent me a link and then I forgot to look at it. And then right before I went to, he's going live. I don't quite understand because he gave a 12-hour window. But anyway, it looks like it's a place to hang out, kind of like a Discord. But I don't know. I'm going to go check his out during that 12-hour period and maybe sign up for one for solution raising.
So what's the actual domain? Because it's not just Topia, right? I mean, Topia.
Let's see. Topia.io.
Okay.
The one I'm on is Topia. Welcome.topia.io/pricing. But the free version has 10 people maximum capacity, and I don't know whether that's 10 people in per time. I know literally nothing about it besides the fact that Raymond said it was cool and wanted to go hang out in it, and I'm going to go hang out in it with him later. With whoever else is there. He was very particular about no politics. How is that going to go, Raymond? But probably pretty well. He's pretty good at holding space for that, probably.
I mean, yeah, we'll see how much.
But just like no politics in this world of like, what are we talking about then? Because anything becomes politics, right?
Yep.
Even without ever mentioning a politician, it's like, oh, especially.
Yeah, I can't really tell. They're saying it's kind of like, I mean, the catchphrase sounds like a social media, but further down, the description sounds more like video conferencing.
Yeah, there was something on it that was also you could like video chat with people in your area, and whether that meant you're like on and therefore you can get connected. I know a lot of those services that have been like that in the past, it just ends up being naked people on like a lot of penis pics. Like, it's like, come on, man. Like chat roulette and stuff. It was like, let's see if we can not get a naked human on the other side. But to be able to do that right, where you can just connect with someone in chat would be awesome. Kind of like running into people on the street, but hey, have you heard about my Lord and Savior anti-capitalism? Can we chat for a minute? Go knock on people's doors. You see. Anyway.
Yeah, the content on their site makes it seem a bit like, I don't know, for like a better chat at work, we were trying to find like an online water cooler, right? And we found something that ended up being like this weird, it was like an online office map where you could like join a room. And then that's what, like, you joined the text and audio chat for that room so that you could have like different, it was weird.
Yeah, there's one where you actually have little avatars you're walking around.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know a guy who does Kiko Chat, and you can click on the rooms and kind of go into them. Hey, Radek.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess Topia is an online event organization tool. So it's funny. It's a well-made site. It just doesn't seem to quite. A lot of startups and stuff, you come up with a way with, I don't really know what you're doing here. I don't know if I'm a user or not.
Customized page, they have a short video of it being used, and yeah, it really just seems like a video chat where you also got an avatar that walks around a map for some reason.
Oh, so it is that similar thing. I mean, having people walk around a map is useful because in video, you have to be very intentional about who you're going to group off with and like breakouts
Right.
or something like that. But being able to just kind of walk up to a conversation and have the volume get a little louder and then walk over to another conversation without like popping in and out
Right.
is a neat thing. I haven't played with it a lot. We just need to all go into VR and be virtual reality.
Yeah. Or just skip that stuff and get the Matrix Jack. So we can just.
So, Radix, do you want to give a project update on anything or have any topics or things you need help with?
That's a standing project update. Is not much happened. I mean, a few updates, but apart from that, not as planned. So it's been quiet for too long.
I do still think one of the most useful. It's yet no one in the Game B space has yet taken this project on besides literally just having a list of them. But I want to know, not just in the Game B space, but like every time someone comes out with tech, what does it do? How does it compare to everything else? Who owns it? Is it good or not? Right? Like, does it, like, why are there all, and pricing, definitely pricing as well. What do you get for the free version? What do you get for the increased version? I mean, with all of these things, I think they're much more powerful if we own them together because we can improve on them instead of needing to create an alternative that's, and for some reason it just popped into my head because I talk about mech a lot, Mountain Equipment Co-op and co-ops, that they're getting sold to an American non-cooperative. But then the members, I didn't even hear about it as a member, and the members are like, no, don't sell it. I'm like, are you going to shop there?
Yeah.
Are you going to like... What's the end? I didn't even know you could sell a cooperative. I'm like, wait, how can you do that without the members saying okay? But then what's the alternative? Bankruptcy? Anyway, it's throwing me through a bit of the loop. That's right.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see the legal.
Yeah, who gets
Stuff
the
like that.
money from the sale?
I think it just goes to paying off debt, and then it's like there isn't a profit. There isn't.
Interesting.
Whoever owns the brand, because everything is a brand, so probably even a cooperative is maybe sometimes its main value is not the people involved, but the people who signed the status and like the agreement. Usually it's just a few people. So I would imagine in this case as well.
They're
Probably
involved.
involved.
equal owners of mech. But it's like mech, Mountain Equipment Co-op. Are they going to take the C out? Like, no, it's just MEC. We're not even going to say the full
No, just
name.
the Amount Equipment Corporation, still MEC.
Fair enough.
It depends on their bylaws on how that all happens. It could be done several ways, but
It's like the difference, the juxtaposition between people in MLMs who are in no way business owners but think they are, so they have this weird loyalty to both the company and the product and the community that like doesn't make sense in a capitalist world where you're like, okay, you don't feel that way about Google or McDonald's, or you don't think they're there for your benefit, but somehow this company existed just so you could make an income and just so you could have this world-changing product. Whereas a cooperative's like actually that, like you actually all own it together. But because of what met, like there's no loyalty, right? It's like, yes, I really want this thing that we all own to have really ethical practices, but then I'm not shopping there. And where like the MLMs could make their stuff as expensive as possible. They're like, oh no, there's a lineup when it first comes out with something. Yeah, because you're the customer. The owners are like, it's like if, which is what I'm trying to do, create the MLM/cooperative that takes the best of both, but I can't change the psyche of people. Like, why do you think why? I don't understand why you think this for-profit company is good and then this other one gets sold and by the wayside. And
yeah, I don't know if that's marketing. Just, for-profit tends to have more cash for marketing, or if it's some other bit of our own psyche. Kind of like when you get something for free, you don't respect it as well. I'm in this accelerator. It's one for underestimated founders. And then there was another one of the workers there, well, the staff came from a women's founders thing, and they said they weren't charging for the accelerator for the women's, and they had like 40 people interested, but then it whittled down to 10, and people just kind of flaked out. So I don't know if charging a high fee up front. There's a lot of businesses where they say we made more money when we raised our prices. Didn't change the product, didn't change anything. It's just that perception of value.
Yeah, I had that
Weird
exact same
psychology.
experience. I used to do business consulting and found that nobody would ever make a change a free consultant, right? Because I was just like, oh, this person needs help, and in some cases I knew them. In some cases I just knew the industry, so I gave them experience. I never saw one person actually make a change, and then I started charging. All of a sudden, people started to make changes because they're like, oh, I'm paying for this, I better do it. So yeah, there's absolutely a thing where like when you charge for it, you do value it more.
So maybe, yeah.
Or you're going to pay for it only if you value it, right? Like I know I'm signing up for a ton of free 5-day course here, 5-day course there. And it's like I go in and the person annoys me and it's like, no, peace out. If I paid $100 for it, I wouldn't pay $100 to sit because I wouldn't know if it's good quality. But part of it is like, right, well, I signed up for 3. I can't keep up with 3 of them. And this person annoys me. This person, doesn't have good content. And so I have ended up following through on some of them. And strangely, the one that I liked is the higher price point one for her other content. And she's the one I did pay, and I've yet to do the course, $10 for one of her other courses because it was also a good deal. So the free one was good. And I'm like, okay, I'll pay $10 for your course. But most of her courses are in the thousands of dollars.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of psychology about perception of value that, I don't know. I mean, if you're doing a cooperative, I wonder if it'd be good, but yeah, we want to make sure it's accessible to everyone, but just making sure that it survives and it also can fund other things. The question is, do we have the prices seem extravagant? And then based on some other way, we either have scholarships or some sort of metric that allows to make it affordable for everyone. I don't know if we want to have everyone submit their tax forms so we know how much money they make, but some sort of way of handling that it might be.
I guess just being super transparent and then letting people say, right, like here's the 3 product lines, here's the price breakdown, here's what each thing does, right? So like, the price difference between the mid price and the high priced is, the high price has absolutely 0 slavery, so you decide. Right, the middle priced one, maybe it's still better than Walmart, right? So it's like, yeah, there's still some slavery involved in parts of the supply chain. Here's where, but it's a quarter of normal. Okay, and then that one, there's nothing, but it's 4 times the price. So buy whichever one you want. But the whole point is you have to be able to compete just in the marketplace. That item has to be good, and like it can be, probably a tiebreaker or like a bit of a differentiator to say, here's the 0 slavery line, but as Mech found out, if you don't actually compete in the marketplace, if you ignore that part, you're probably not going to be successful.
I was just going to say, if there is something psychological about having to pay for stuff, and it's not paying itself, it's the exchange of stuff, it's something more. And then again, there is this idea of sometimes sacrifice as being exactly the thing that in mythology there is every mythology has something like a quest type of thing where some god or some super being needs to make a great sacrifice in order to get something. So there's something deep here, but it makes me think of when you are paying for something, especially if the price is like exactly in the spot where it feels like I can still afford it, and it's big enough for me to actually feel that I've paid for something. So the correct question to ask people is, how much money would you like to give us in order to be like bound to us?
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that part of increasing satisfaction might be charging more money.
And then
Because people feel more satisfied with the product and with using it and the company that gives it to them.
Yeah.
and I'm
I think
sorry,
as long as that in value of the item, you still can't charge $10,000 for a bag of chips, but you also probably shouldn't charge $5 for a car. So, like, I think there's some expected
There's-
ranges for each.
Like, and that's part of Mech's business, like Van City, which is a credit union. All credit unions are cooperatives, as far as I know. That you pay. It used to be $50, now it's $5, and it sits in a membered share, and you use the bank account or you don't. So but like Mech is the same. You're paying $5 for a share. You don't even necessarily understand what a cooperative is to shop there. They just get you to sign up for a $5 share, and then you're a lifetime member. And there's something about that where it's like, okay, it's not Costco where you're paying the same fee every year. So you're like, wait, if I pay $5 a year, I might be more willing to shop at Mech over the next one because I'm reminded every year. But then at the same time, maybe then I would have shopped there, and I'm not going to shop there because I'm not going to pay $5 extra to shop there this time if I'm only coming once a year. So there's incentive both ways. But anyway, that's part of the MLM idea of paying $25 a month and having scholarship, is that it's enough that most people can, it's low enough that most people can afford it, but it's still an amount that's bigger than Netflix, it's bigger than, right? You can just add that to the pool and feel good about it, but also, is it bringing you value? Are you here to pool your money and save the world, right? To be able to do actual powerful things with that. And because it's coming out monthly, it's like, right, people might fall off, and they're actually the perfect people to fall off, right? If they are like, yeah, this isn't worth it for me, great, awesome.
So Ghibli, what are your next steps in that project with the MLM, or are you still just figuring it out?
Well, I have the basic product figured out and the basic MLM thing figured out. I just need someone to like put it down in a way that can explain it to other people. Yeah.
So you need someone to, have you recorded videos on all of that?
No, because it's not something especially for the MLM itself and the product actually, aren't something I really want to release on my YouTube channel because I want someone else to steal the idea and co-opt it for game A, right? Like, or even to co-opt it for their game B, in all honesty. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. There's some rivalry in me. Like, I don't want someone to steal the product because the product itself is the community, and there isn't a community yet. Right. So anyone creating that, whatever the community is that starting with whoever 10 people are going to create, the culture are going to create. Anyway, yeah, I have the product more or less and the structure. And that's part of it, is that the solution raising was going to be the product or something very similar. But solution raising doesn't appeal to a broad base. It appeals to a very specific group of people. Like, everyone seems to want the ideas that come out of solution raising to be made, but they don't necessarily want to participate in solution raisings. I think there's something very similar to that is about your own life that almost everyone does want to participate in, or at least the people who like the self-help community and the spiritual community and stuff want to participate in. But then it's game B, but not game B, right? It's like sneaky. You don't need to know game B to participate in it. And creating lives that work for us helps us then be more free to work on projects together, right? Working on projects together, like the bigger we grow, the better the product gets, because the bigger the community grows and the more we have in the catalog. At the same time, starting from a place that isn't very game B, but is game B. But you know what I'm saying? You don't need to know what OmniWin is, you don't know what Anti-Rivalrous is to come and create a life that works for you. But the people I want to retire, the people I want to take out of game A and put into game B are game B people, who aren't necessarily the people who are going to come and be like, yeah, I'd like to sit around and talk about my health and my finances and my relationships to improve them. And so part of it's separating them out so that it's like, okay, what people want to create the recruitment structure and the retire structure and focus on that, and who wants to participate in the product, right? And those people might overlap and they also might not overlap, but it's like these people talking about creating this in a way that would work for them, would work for most of their friends and family, so that it can be something that they can invite anyone to, and it will be powerful.
And so you really need someone who either is an author, can take your thoughts and write it up, or marketing.
Yeah, I need both of those things. Yeah, what I
Although
really
one-
need for solution
one-
raising or for this is somebody who can bring people to it, right? Like, for the MLM, I don't think I would have a problem recruiting 10 people in the Game B space. I don't think that would be the problem. It's what am I recruiting them to? I don't want to have another, what is the word? What did I create after solution raising? Process raising, where it was just very confused. Like, what are we doing? And every time Raymond would just be like, oh yeah, I think they're already doing what you're doing. I'm like, they're in no way doing what I'm doing. It was like because I tried to just throw people together and be like, we're going to create this. So there has to be that foundation of here's the structure you're coming on board for. Here's what is somewhat concrete. And here's what is gray area we're all going to decide together. And here's the product. The product I'm not tied to, but it has to be something that has these characteristics, right? And it's what I've come up with, I think, is a good starting place for one to then work through having it and seeing, can we incorporate the people who participate in the product in making the product better in a way that's not just at the end of a class. How could we improve, right? Where it's like, no, what worked for you? Because if it's a 6-week course, one of those courses is how was this for you? Let's talk about the whole course in general and getting the feedback from that. Like, what would have made it even better? What did you love? What did you hate? What would make this more powerful?
So yeah, I think kind of like you need someone to help you build a pitch deck for those first 10 people that come in understand it well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, which was what happened when I first created it, I have a slightly different conversation with everyone and they change it, which is powerful and awesome. That's what happened when I first had the idea. And then I talked to Mark and I was like, okay. And then it altered it enough. But then do I go to talk to the first person, right? I'm in this stage where it's no longer altering. And so, yeah, getting that more concrete, here's what it is, and here's what's gray area, what we're going to decide together.
If no one minds, I think for the last 10 minutes, I'd like to angle to the WikiLection project and maybe, maybe not go full technical, but get an idea on, because I guess I keep falling back on me wanting to build this matchmaking thing, but I also don't want to duplicate the work you've done, Radek. But also if it doesn't quite fit my vision, I might. So I guess if we could see how aligned we are. I know I think you implemented it. Your intent was to implement pretty close to the way I described it. Like you're riffing on my idea.
Yes, as in the book.
Anyways, I don't know if you have anything you want to say about that or.
Not sure. I was the logical conclusion and logical next step for the work that started was to make it more flexible in terms of what kind of data, what types of entities can exist in the system. And then I read your Google Doc and it seemed very similar. So yeah, I think I followed that line of thought since then. So yes.
So what I think I would like to do is I want to spread the idea out slightly larger than WikiLection and Conferati, and also include kind of the other ideas. So I was thinking about putting together a single demo page that does maybe not even have a backend hooked to it, but has some sample data and then lets you like add some stuff to it just to kind of prototype. Mm-hmm. And also some alternate front ends to what you've done. But I don't know if I want to go ahead and use the data structures you've already built, or just go off on my own or what. But I guess I'd need to see some JSON or something on how you did it, which I guess I could go to that site and.
It's not going to be. I can commit everything right now, or I can just clean it up a bit and then commit everything right after.
Things don't need to be clean because it's a prototype. So I would prefer you go ahead and put it up there so you don't get distracted. Although I was just looking in GitHub, do I have access to the GitHub?
I think I sent you an invitation, but maybe no.
Yeah, I believe
I
so.
did. You know, it's funny. It's so hard to find things in GitHub for some reason. I don't know why. The homepage. It's like they list some of my stuff. It's like, oh, here's the show more button. Maybe if I read the directions. The problem is it has all the stuff I'm working on and everything I've ever followed. Here we go.
Right. So it's just this big spaghetti mess
Yeah.
of like, where's my
There we
stuff?
go.
Where's the other stuff?
Yeah. So if you don't mind just throwing it up there, and I could have a look and see whether I agree with all the micro decisions you had to make, just so I'm not needlessly reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, the problem is as the usual problem in those cases is that starting with just a few assumptions, it left me with too many decisions to be made, and it's a bit too sketchy. So in some places, in the older parts of the code, it looks different. In the newer, it's slightly different. So I'll commit it. You will see it, and
if you want to point me to one or two files that you think have the newer ideas, that
okay,
might
sure.
be helpful. But yeah, don't feel pressure to make it look nice. It'd be nice for me to get feeling. I won't judge it too harshly, being a prototype. I'm trying to think if there's any other topics we want to go over. Maybe we should require someone to be in the hot seat every week. Rotate it. Because we're all about telling people what to do, right?
Okay, I committed everything to my part, but then, where did it go?
Oops.
Because I mean, I know 36 seconds ago, so I probably, if you see the wiki election, so it might be even the right place for the code to go. So yeah.
Okay.
Do you see it?
Entity.js.
Something like this. Yes. That's the.
Okay. I'll take a look.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate you doing all that work.
Yes. Thank you. And yeah, hopefully. And by the way, it seems like it totally seems like this is something worth doing. I mean, of course, it's something we're doing generally, but this is something I also like. It's something that I could use myself, and this is something I would personally like to see finally being out there and doing its thing as discussed yesterday. So
I think it would also help. You know, Jubilee even wanted it earlier today when she said, something that tells me which projects are good. And I mean, there's other data like who did it and when and stuff, but that whether it's good and why is it good and whether it's what I need. That this is the base infrastructure for that. So it's funny because every day I see one or two people say they wish they had this. It sounds like foundational. Like there's wikis, there's blogs, and then there's this, right?
Yeah. No, it's something that does come up quite a bit in all the different parts to it. Like the adding one, the searching for it across different entities that now have the same topic in mind. One of the nice things about the Wikilection Conferati sort of version of this is there will end up being some variation. Like, for example, the scores that you might use to like end up summarizing a person would be slightly different than the scores for an organization. And the
Mhm.
scores that you'd be reviewing content are going to be completely different than the scores for a person or the author. So that will hopefully help sort of hash it out a bit and help show, hey, here's this one tool using this thing in 3 or 4 different ways. But like here, and here on these pages, these scores are all that thing. And then this matching spot over here is that same thing. Because I think one of my experiences with tools like this is like it took us all a while to sort of understand exactly what it was doing to be like, okay, I can see how that's useful. It's hard to explain that, as opposed to like, go look on this site, see all the scoring, it's that.
Yeah, I think when we have a few examples, and most people won't care because they want the specific use case, right?
Yeah.
So they don't care that that's a no code creator of that. But yeah, for the people that might use it, like if Jubilee wanted one of these, that she could spin it up quickly without too much configuration. Although I don't know if I'll ever.
If you can figure out how to get it so I can do it, you're at a whole other level.
Yeah.
But yeah, someone else.
Yeah. Something where you don't have to have any technical skills beyond, like, if you've used Excel to balance your bank account, then you should be able to do it.
It's interesting to think that there's going to be like flat field. It's not going to be flat, but a graph of entities and connections and stuff. But then what is personalized about it is different scores and how, different scores as scores being mattering differently to different people. And then I wonder if if it's possible to have some sort of arithmetic going on different types of scores between, like, if there's any relation between, for example, the way you score organization and like political party, that's kind of the same type of entity. But then you have products and they have different type of scores. But I wonder if there would be some statistical, some patterns in how people, of course there will be, how people judge things according to themselves and how the scores are. I was going with this somewhere.
Well, like in some countries, a 5 means you did okay, and in some countries, a 2.5 means you're okay. So scores have different meanings to different people. But also to your earlier point, I think, eventually we'll be like, if this company has slave labor and this company has doesn't bad environmental practices, then maybe those two should multiply in how bad, quote, bad the company is. So being able to actually write out formulas like you do in Excel might be something that some people would use, or having those pre-built and then people could choose them.
That would be interesting. So like if you can say that you care about environmentalism, and animal rights and everything, and then you want to evaluate a company or a product, we're like, okay, but if I don't care about, I don't know, a certain thing, and they don't do well there, it's fine. That still doesn't get factored into their score. But then, if they're bad at environmentalism and animal rights and slavery, and I have those as my personal sort of things that I care about, that any company that has all three, there is some sort of like a multiplicative. You're like, oh, that company's really bad. Don't deal with them. There's the alternative where they're kind of bad in slavery and bad for animal rights, but like they're better on the other things. All right, I guess that's an improvement.
Yeah,
it's a personal set of modifiers. What happens now with legislation is the legislation has a set of scores, and they get applied to the person, to the voter, to the politician by transformation and transformation of if the person voted yes and if the person voted no, different scores are applied to the person. So it's a very rudimentary form of transformation. But in case of personal preferences, every user should be able to say, I care about environment very much, but I don't care about some other factor. And then the user would perhaps see modified scores everywhere. It's like the lenses, having lenses through which to look at things personalized. That would be something.
Yeah.
Next stage.
And a library of scoring mechanisms. So like even like an organization, like if you follow, I don't know, what's a nonprofit animal rights organization like the ASPCA or something like that. You know, and then you could see how their ratings applied to the companies that you're interested in. So you don't have to do math if you don't want to, but
Right. Yeah. And nonprofits are a great example where that's also a new set of criteria that maybe only apply to them, like what percentage of their proceeds actually go towards their stated purpose.
yeah.
Which, like, you wouldn't really do that for Google because their stated purpose is profit. So if it goes towards profit, doesn't really matter. The same as like, if I want to give money to an animal rights organization and there's these 5, A, how do those organizations operate? But then B, what percentage does each of them actually give to their stated purpose? If one gives 15% and one gives 85%, well, what I'm doing is to see a head slowly sneak into Radix, right?
We probably do need to shut it down. It's
Yeah,
been about
true.
an hour. Well, it was a lot of fun. Thank you, everybody.
It's cool.
See ya next week on Friday, where we're talking about values on our board meeting, and then this time next week for roundtables. Feel free to come, so it's not our same 4 faces. You're not the same 4 projects again and again. You can be in the hot seat. We will focus on you for the hour.
Maybe that's why no one shows up, because they think that the first time
Maybe
they show
we'll
up,
do.
they're gonna be like, I don't want to be in the hot
Scared.
seat the first time.
Also
Yeah,
thinking
maybe.
if no one else has hot seat next week, maybe I'll be in the hot seat and we can do, rather than we'll try to solve our life problems. We'll do wish obstacle together if no one else wants to have the hot seat after we do.
Yeah.
See how
I
that
think we
works.
do that.
It's kind of like roundtable for your personal life instead of for your project. Where are you? Where do you want to get to? What's stopping you? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And broadcast. Bye-bye, people.